This is a Defocus Media production.
Audio Jungle.
What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover.
And I'm Dr. Jennifer Lyerly, resident optometry nerd.
And welcome to Defocus Media, optometry's #1 podcast, where we discuss the hottest topics, latest technology, eyewear, practice management, and more. So sit back, relax, and defocus. What's up, everyone? It's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover. Happy Tuesday. I'm back at it with my brother from another mother, the mighty and the amazing Dr. Jeffrey Fardink. How you doing today, my friend?
I am doing great. Happy to be here. It's my favorite time of the month.
I know that's right, man. Mine as well, because we're all about Eyecare Shenanigans, baby. You know, where we talk about the latest news or the hottest news, the latest trends, research, and more. And today I know you have an incredible lineup of some amazing articles that we're going to dive deep into it. But before we get started, man, you know I like to know what's going on with you. How was your day, my friend? How was clinic? How was patient care?
My day was great. Busy. I was out in my my Farmville location today, which is I always love the name of that town so much. Very rural clinic. And it's great. It's great.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I was in patient care today. Saw about 21 patients. All age spectrum or all across the spectrum for ages. I just had a good time, man. Had a couple of no-shows, which, you know, I'm always like, man, why did this person not show up? That's an opportunity for someone else, but it happens, right?
I hear you.
But overall, pretty fantastic day. I mean, in my neck of the woods right now, we're dealing with allergies. Pollen is out. It's not as high as it used to be. It's starting to slowly die down, but that's been the constant theme that I've been getting coming through my doors over the last couple of weeks. What have you been experiencing?
Well, the weather's getting nicer, so definitely no shows are more of an issue. But I'll tell you, the demand in my area, at least, is so high that I'm not seeing too much of it. I used to do a lot more exams in jails and prisons, and I would get no shows there, which I always thought was so crazy. Like patients were scheduled to not show up. I guess they had somewhere else to be. I don't know.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Well, let's jump into the mix, man. We got some interesting things today for those that are, first time tuning in. Dr. Fardink is a genius. He's an eye care expert, and also he's handsome on the eyes, right? Very good looking young man.
We're both
right?
easy on the eyes, just a different way.
But today we are basically with Eyecare Shenanigans. What we do is break down cases. I socialize these cases with Dr. Fardink, and he really, breaks it down from top to bottom to give us better understanding of what we read in the literature and give us a different perspective of what we read in the literature. So I'm forever grateful for him for always breaking this down and making news fun, exciting, and just a different way of looking at it, right? So let's go ahead and get started, man. The first topic up today is pandemic myopia. What is that all about, my friend? Because I don't know about you. This is a thing. Patients are coming in. They're asking me, hey, Dr. Glover, the pandemic's over. My child has been locked and loaded in front of the monitor for countless hours. What should I expect now that they're in school? They're playing outdoors more. They're not wearing masks. They're touching people, and they can see further out at a distance. Let's talk about this article, because I know this is, a piece of what's in this article here, my friend.
Yeah. So in the Journal of the American Medical Association Ophthalmology, it's the prevalence of myopia in children before, during, and after COVID-19 restrictions in Hong Kong. So there's a lot of great studies going on in Hong Kong regarding myopia progression, myopia control. And this study, there's 20,500 kids in this study. The average age is about 7.25 years. And looking at the results here from 2015 to 2019, myopia prevalence was pretty darn stable between about 23.5 and 25% of that population. But then in 2020, prevalence jumped up to 28.8%, and 2021 jumped up to 36% of myopia. So a huge increase in the prevalence of myopia during the really strict COVID lockdowns over there in Hong Kong. And they break it down some more into some different metrics here too. Lower family income and younger age are the groups that really seems to get the most hammered by the increase in myopia. And the lower family income, those kids spent longer on near work and longer on screens. 5.25 hours near work per day compared to higher income kids at 4.5, and then 3.5 hours on screens compared to higher income kids at 2.75 hours on screens. So that's the difference there.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if that would apply to the United States, because I've heard that there are what we call Wi-Fi deserts, right?
Yeah.
Low income communities, low income homes do not have Wi-Fi. So they're not locked and loaded in front of those computers. I wonder if that demographic, those patients, if we actually saw less nearsightedness take place over time simply because they weren't locked and loaded in front of their monitors as much as those that may have spent more time in front of the monitors. So I'm curious what that would look like.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We're learning so much more about myopia these days, and it's really interesting. And I wish we had more answers, because patients ask me all the time, is it bad for my kids to be, on screens reading and so forth? And we need more answers. Is it lack of sunlight? Is it blue light on the screens up close? Is it any near work up close? We need more answers, but this study definitely showing a big correlation. So it's interesting.
Absolutely. So what should we tell our patients when they come in and we see this? What's your go-to response and answer?
My big thing is to educate parents about the outdoors sunlight correlation that we're aware of. I don't think that's really an intuitive thing that our patients are aware of. There definitely seems to be a protective effect when kids are spending more time outdoors in sunlight with myopia progression. So I always stress the importance of encouraging kids to spend more time outdoors in the sunlight. And I tell patients not to be too wary of screens, because we just don't have enough data to really say that screens are necessarily causing harm. I mean, they could be, but we just don't have the data there. So I try to encourage parents, not to be too concerned about that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, some things that I look at just for screen time in general is, number one, spending more time outdoors, right?
Yeah.
And having that conversation, that opens up the opportunity to educate about the importance of sunglasses, right?
Absolutely.
So, there's always opportunity to educate a little further, and I always take it to the next level with that. The other thing I tell my parents is, whenever they're looking, or kids are looking at their tablets or their cell phones, if they can actually cast that to the TV, make that happen as well, because that's going to give them a little more distance to be able to look at something rather than holding it closely to their face.
Right.
Last thing I want to experience is, 10, 15 years down the road, and we're like, man, we should have not been holding those tablets so closely, right? So, anything I could do to give more distance between the eyes and whatever device they're looking at, I make happen. And I think spending more time outdoors, spending more time looking at the TV from whatever you could cast from your tablet or cell phone makes a big difference. And with that opportunity, of course, there's opportunity to discuss blue light protection, no glare protection, and other technologies that may be out there as well.
I completely agree. I agree with you 100%. And that's why I tell parents too, I wonder more, would reading a book at near have the same impact on kids as reading on a tablet? We just don't have the answers to these questions. I don't know.
Right. I love it. Well, let's take it to the next topic at hand. I want to take it back almost to Christmas, man. Let it snow, baby.
87 degrees here in Virginia today. My gosh, we're talking about snow. Yeah. So visual snow. Kind of like the man. I hope that our younger viewers know what I'm talking about when I say this, but kind of like the old-fashioned TV static, that you used to get on the TV. So some patients are bothered by visual snow. They're seeing this kind of TV static pattern all the time, overlaid over their vision, and it can be really distracting to people and can be really detrimental. I've definitely have. It's not a super common thing. I've talked to a lot of providers who aren't even that aware of it, but I definitely have patients that have it. And I've got a small number of patients, maybe one or two in my career, who are really, really bothered by it. And it really seems to affect their life negatively. So, I'm excited to hear that there might be some treatment options for patients like that who have the visual snow to such a degree that it really impacts their lives. So what this study is demonstrating, there's a vision therapy protocol that's been launched by some doctors, and they're doing neurooptometric rehabilitation therapy, NORT as they call it. And their measure for success was to use the National Eye Institute Visual Function Questionnaire 25 questionnaire, which is a measure of kind of quality of life based on your vision. And over the course of the therapy that they did, at 0 weeks, they did the VFQ, and then at also 6 weeks and 12 weeks, they're getting big big quality of life improvements in these patients who are very bothered by visual snow. They're not seeing any reduction in the visual snow with the therapy, but the therapy that they're doing seems to be really helping patients to cope with it, live with it, getting quality of life improvements. So that's promising.
Yeah, very much, man. I remember when I first got out of school and I had a patient come in and they were like, man, I'm seeing all these little crazy dots all over the place. I mean, the first thing that popped in mind was like, holy crap, this person's retina's just gone, right?
Popping off their
right. And then they just started saying, no, it's more like snow. And I dilated them. I didn't see anything. And I missed this. I didn't know about this at the time that I got out of school. So, I dropped the ball on this patient, right? But then I had another patient come in and I did a little more digging, and then I figured out what was taking place. And for this visual snow, man, just for those that have not actually looked it up, I just want to give you a breakdown. There's actually two types, right? There's the pulse type and the broadband type. And according to the AAO, in the pulse type, the dots are the same size color as their background, black or white, and the noise is monopolar. In the black pulse visual snow, the dots are always darker than their background, whereas in a white pulse, the dots are always lighter than their background.
Interesting. I wasn't aware of those variations.
Yeah, and in the broadband type, the dot noise is bipolar and occurs in contrast to the background. With a light background, the dots will appear dark, and with the dark background, the dots will appear light. So, it's good to know these things. Some people are saying that it's associated with psychiatric conditions, including anxiety, depression, depersonalization, fatigue, poor sleep, poor rest, amongst some other things. So when you have these patients coming in and they're talking about some of these visual disturbances, we got to be educated about what's taking place, so you don't drop the ball like I did, because it may be some correlation that's there as well.
Don't beat yourself up, man. This is not a really well understood or really well-known condition. That's why we're here, to educate our colleagues about it, so that they can pick up the ball for us.
And that's why I love Eyecare, man, and healthcare, because we're always learning, right? Yes, there are those traditional routes of continuing education, but guess what? We're stepping it up. We're taking it to the next level.
That's right.
We're educating on a podcast, a live stream, and you're going to be able to take these gems and put them back into your practice and implement them and have these conversations with your patients. That's what it's all about at Eyecare Shenanigans. And again, we have fun with it. I mean, look at the title of this topic. Let it snow, baby.
Let it snow. Let it snow. That's right. They're not stopping the snow. They're just helping you live with it. It's like when I grew up in Buffalo. They're not going to stop the snow. They'll just plow the roads.
I love it, man. I love it.
BT to plow the roads now.
Amen to that, man. So let's take it to the next one. I need my beauty rest, baby. What's happening?
Yeah, this was a great one from our friends at the Royal Academy of Ophthalmology over the seas there, from Nature Journal Eye, my favorite. So before I get into this topic, I need to talk about something that I found really controversial in this paper. They're talking about inappropriate sleep durations and negative health outcomes. Now, what is inappropriate sleep? If I sleep 10, 11, 12 hours, I call that appropriate. That sounds good to me. I took this personally. Some of the digs they're making here, making me feel like I'm too much of a sleepyhead here. But
it's like they were peeking in your bedroom, man.
Yeah, that's right. 12 hours. I call that a good start. Come on. But basically, so people are getting older. The world is aging. And we are going to have more and more patients with severe visual impairment as a result of that. By 2050, the numbers of blind people across the world, we're looking at about 88 million blind people by 2050. And I think about 600 million people with moderate to severe visual impairment expected at 2050. So we're going to be seeing more and more issues with severe visual problems as the world gets older. And so looking at modifiable risk factors, things that we can change, try to prevent some of these things from happening, is important. So there's just a big literature review here of 21 studies over the years involving 750,000 patients in all these different studies, where they kind of measure sleep duration and compare it to the risk of major eye diseases such as cataracts, glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy.
Yeah.
And the results here are pretty interesting. Short sleep duration, about 6 hours or less, seems to really increase the risk of developing cataracts. There's a big correlation there. And I need to back up. I don't want to say that the short sleep is increasing the risk, because there's just a correlation here. We can't really say what's going on, but there's definitely a correlation there. And long sleep duration, greater than 9 hours, seems to correlate well with the risk of diabetic retinopathy. Interestingly, though, it seems it's less that if the patient sleeps 9 hours continuously at night, and more if they, sleep regularly at night and then nap during the day. 9 hours kind of total with more daytime sleep seems to be more associated with diabetic retinopathy. And the last association they had there was teens who sleep more than 10 hours. There's a risk for developing a bigger risk for myopia progression there, which is interesting.
So for teens that sleep more hours, they have a higher chance, or there's a correlation of more myopia.
Correct. And it's strange. The myopia one was the most interesting because getting good sleep, 8 to 9 hours, kind of decreased the risk for myopia.
Right.
But then getting extreme sleep, 10 hours plus, seemed to increase the risk. And they've got good odds ratios for these numbers. So it's interesting. Just a correlation again, but it's interesting to look at these things.
Sure. And that goes back to, what we were talking about before, right? Does looking at a cell phone, a computer, a book, cause more nearsightedness? If you're sleeping longer hours, clearly you're not looking at anything, right? So where does that correlation work with that, right?
Yeah.
But then also considering the diabetic retinopathy, right? If you're sleeping more hours, was it more or less diabetic retinopathy?
More diabetic retinopathy.
It was more if you sleep more hours. And I guess I could see that because you're not being active, you're not moving around, you're staying, you're sitting still. So I can see the correlation on that end.
Yeah.
But I would love to learn a little bit more about the myopia piece, because that seems kind of the opposite from what we're looking at in today's society as far as literature and information, right?
Absolutely. Well, it goes back to what we were talking about before, where it seems like sunlight seems to have a protective effect against myopia. If you're asleep, you're not outdoors in the sun, I guess. Even if you are, your eyes are closed more than likely, right? So
true.
So there's that to look at. And the study authors did try to posit some things. In terms of the short sleep duration, they did say that, that makes sense. These patients have less time to recover from oxidative stress. It makes sense that short sleep duration patients would have higher rates of cataracts as far as they're concerned. And for the diabetic retinopathy increase, the study authors posit that likely the diabetic retinopathy and the longer sleep are both kind of effects of the cause. Maybe poor health makes you more fatigued and makes you want to sleep more, is what they're thinking, at least, that there's more of a correlation in that way.
Gotcha. Awesome, man. Hey, you're always bringing us the latest and greatest, baby. I love it, man.
When I saw that article, I was like, inappropriate sleep. Wait a minute. That making me upset. Explains why I'm nearsighted. That makes sense now. More than 10 hours. But
well, for me, I'm one of those guys that I get my beauty rest, but
clearly handsome guy. Come on. Brag. Humble brag.
It's funny, man. Funny story. When I was younger, my wife and I, we've known each other for about 23 years now. We'll be married in September for 10 years. And we were on for most of that time. But it took a little longer because she was in law school and I was in optometry school and I had to save money to buy her that ring, right?
Yeah, right,
but
right.
Funny story, talking about beauty, when I was younger, she thought I was the most hideous looking thing ever, right? And as I get older, she always says, you look better and better every year that you age. Now, I don't know if I should be taking that as a positive thing or as a negative thing, but I'm not going to lie, Jeff, man. I look back at some of my pictures when I was in high school and I thought I was flying fresh. Woo! Man, I was kind of scary looking, my friend. I must have had some serious game back in the day, baby.
If I had to guess, probably her vision is declining with age is what the cause of that is. That's my guess.
She might have a little bit of cataracts.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Dry eye. That's causing her not to see as clearly, right?
Nah, you're looking good now. I'll tell you. I'd love to see you in high school. Definitely.
Oh man, I appreciate
back
it.
At me,
Man.
My God. I got a nice mullet back in my house.
Well, let's take it to the next one, man. Recall those drops. This is a big one. This has really changed the eye care industry, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about this because everyone's talking about it, but not everyone's really looking at the data or the papers, articles that are out there. So let's talk about recall those drops, baby.
Yeah. I always like to try to find an article that was in a popular news source, things that our patients might be talking to us about, so that you guys are, hopefully prepared to answer questions they might have for you, though. This article was from the New York Times on March 22nd about the eye drop recalls out there. So a couple brands of artificial tears from a company, Global Pharma, were recalled in the past couple of weeks here. linked with outbreaks of Pseudomonas infections, drug-resistant Pseudomonas. Three deaths apparently have been associated with it, which is pretty drastic. And 68 people in 16 states the CDC has identified as having infections likely linked to contaminated drops. And one lady is even suing over an enucleation that happened, unfortunately. The brands are not super common brands that I haven't seen before, honestly, to tell you the truth, but it's Esricare's artificial tears and Delsum Pharma's artificial tears were the drops that were recalled for the infections. And it's scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. My question is, where are these drugs sold? Is it just the United States or is it global? I mean, by the name, probably all over the place, right? So
Yeah.
how many folks are actually using these drops that may live in areas where the recall system is not as strong, not as
Right.
right? How many people are losing eyes and don't know why they're losing their eyes to drugs that are out there? Not just this one, but just drugs in general, right?
Yeah.
So it's very important to take a look at this situation and look at this. Yes, it's bad that these patients have lost their lives and lost their eyes and enucleation and all the other jazz, but it's an opportunity for us as optometrists, right? This is an opportunity to really have a conversation and educate our patients on the importance of branded quality eye drops, right? Right. It's also an opportunity to maybe even start stocking branded eye drops in your practice to be able
Absolutely.
to tell your patients that I am the resource for anything that you need eye care related. Don't go to the grocery store and see that big sea of artificial tears. Come to me and purchase them from my practice. That way, you have the best of the best and you're not going to run into any problems. Now, yes, of course, anything can happen with some of these big, strong global brands, but let's be honest, we're not really seeing a lot of that take place. So
Exactly.
let's see what we can learn from this.
Yeah, I agree. And, preservative-free artificial tears, of course, are a great tool in our toolbox to help patients with sensitive ocular surfaces. But I tell you, I've always been kind of nervous about it. I know patients also might not have the best habits trying to stretch these little ampules out, maybe using a drop and putting it to the side, trying to use it a couple days later. That preservative's there for a reason. And these preservative-free drops, I'm not aware of any issues that have happened in the past, but I've always been kind of more nervous about these drops as they're getting more popular out there.
Yeah, and also look at expiration dates. I was just in the store the other day, and I was looking at, I can't even remember what I was buying, quinoa, and I was looking up top 10 quinoa from Walmart, and I saw, I think, number 2, and I was like, they have this one, so let me go with it. I picked it up, and it had some about 4 or 5 of them were expired, right?
Wow.
How many times do you actually look at the expiration date when you buy something?
Never.
So these are things that when we're giving samples to our patients, we need to look at the expiration date. When we are telling our patients to go pick up a product, tell them to look at an expiration date. Because the last thing you want to be is connected to a patient losing their eyes because they picked up some random drug and it was expired and you were in their path in some kind of way, right? Because yes, they're going to be mad at that company, but at the end of the day, you were the eye doctor that told them to go out and get an artificial tear. But again, this is an opportunity to educate and be specific in regards to which drop they need to use and educate them why you're actually using that drop as well. Education is the key to success. And Dr. Jeff, I know you're always preaching on your your stand and saying, hey, education. And this is the perfect case of why you have to educate your patients.
Couldn't agree more. And a couple other eye drops were recalled also for different reasons. There was some batches of brimonidine that were recalled because caps were breaking. There were no negative outcomes associated with that, though, just being cautious. And so if any of your patients are like, oh, my brimonidine was recalled, am I going to lose my eye? No, that was recalled just for the caps were breaking, but there's no actual negative sequelae that were discovered from that. So
yeah, thanks for that update, man. I think that was one that's been big in the news. And again, we got to be educated and be able to have these educated conversations with our patients when they come in, because again, we are the experts and that's why they come to us.
And I love your point about having the drops in stock there. I mean, you're right. It's a sea of options out there, which is great. It's great to have all those choices, but man, we're spoiled for choice sometimes. So it's good to have a few of your rock star drops in office there to have available for your patients. I couldn't agree more.
No doubt. And speaking of drops, what is your go-to drop for just?
So I mentioned it last night,
yeah.
And it's we were sponsored last night, but we're not tonight. I'm still going to mention it because I love this drop anyway. But I'm a big fan of the Blink line of drops that Johnson & Johnson has, because they've got this vanishing preservative in there that breaks down on UV light. So there's still a preservative there to protect your patients. They still get the reusable bottle for convenience reasons, but it's not preservative free, but it kind of is, because the preservative breaks down as soon as it leaves the bottle. So it has the nice reason there. So I'm a big fan of Blink Tears and Blink for contacts.
Yeah, I love the Refresh Digital, Refresh Mega 3s, and also the Sustain Complete, all preservative free. Really love that Sustain Complete because it has that mixed mechanism technology, and the nano technology, and it covers that mixed mechanism. So your all lives of dry eye that's there, you have something that can cater to it with that drop. So I really try to, leverage whatever I have in my office with the patient that presents in front of me, the right solution, right? So I don't have one go-to, but definitely different options depending on what I see in front of me as well. But all of these are great brands. But again, true branded solutions that people know, and big companies as well. I mean, you're talking Johnson & Johnson Vision, you're talking Alcon, you're talking Allergan. These are reputable brands that provide, fantastic products that's going to really help to take care of these patients.
Yep, and I want to give a shout out to a local Richmond, Virginia optometrist, Dr. John Noble, who turned me on to Blink and Clean, another one of the Blink drops. It's for contact lens patients. So I fit a lot of specialty contact lenses, a lot of RGPs, and patients that have problems with depositing or their lens is not wetting well, which is not a lot of your patients, but for those patients, this Blink and Clean drop, the purple bottle, is really effective at keeping those lenses hydrated. So big fan of that drop for those problem patients.
Something I like about the Blink brand is the colors and their coupons. Like, they're just so robust and so rich that you just want to be a part of it, right? And it catches your eye. I don't know who's in charge of their marketing, man, but they've done a hell of a job with that. Branding and color, all that stuff makes a big deal. So some of the other brands out there need to step your game up, folks.
That's right. I want to echo what you said too. Sustain Complete. I love that one. That's one of my favorites also.
For sure, man. Well, let's bring it home, man. We have one last topic here: neuro-ophthalmic complications of COVID-19.
So again, long article, but it's going to be a short segment. I'll break it down quickly here. It was a 30-page paper. It was a doozy, but an interesting one, linking a lot of major and uncommon eye conditions with COVID-19 vaccinations. Conditions like NAION, optic neuritis, myasthenia gravis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, conditions like that. There's a big 30-page paper that looked into many different case reports and case studies that have been released where patients received COVID-19 vaccinations and then had these major complications happen. And the important thing that I want to make clear here is I agree very much with the author of this paper here, that when they said that more than likely this is just random chance. They posit some reasons where potentially the vaccine could have had a role to play, but on the millions, if not billions, of people who've received these vaccines across the world, the numbers that we're seeing of these complications are so low that more than likely it's just random chance that they happen to have these complications around the time that they were vaccinated. So it's a really interesting paper that really goes deep and breaks down all these different case reports and case studies, has some idea about potential correlation and causality that's going on, but I agree. I'm more than likely it's just random chance. We just don't have big numbers of complications, and more than anything else too. Just like some doctors in the eye drop article were saying, tell your patients keep using your eye drops, you need them, and the doctors here are saying the COVID vaccines do so much good. There's no evidence that they're really causing any harm here, and they've done so much good demonstrably. So it's an interesting paper, but the end takeaway is not much to say. So I can tell you, in my clinic, I've definitely had patients come in. I had a patient with horrible, intractable myokymia, eyelid just twitching like crazy. She says, "It's my COVID-19 vaccine did it." I'm like, "Oh, geez, okay." But then I went to refractor. The second she got behind the phoropter, the myokymia stops. I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting. I can still see you. I don't know if you're aware of that, but whatever. So yeah, I've had patients who think the COVID-19 vaccine has done themselves some harm, but I'm very skeptical about that.
Yeah, that's a great article. I mean, I've had countless patients come in and, want to point to the vaccine or COVID in regards to some of their ocular complications. And to your point, there's data out there, but not enough research to really just say, hey, this is it, right?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, again, educating your patient, saying like, we need more information, we need more reliable research and things like that to truly find out what's going on. And I'm pretty sure, a couple years, 5 years down the road, there'll be more literature where we can say, that makes sense. I did see a lot of that. I didn't realize that. At one point, I had one of my colleagues that was telling me that they noticed with the vaccine, two things happened. They saw an increase in cataracts and also an increase in pressure starting to raise slightly. I don't know if you saw any of that in your practice. I did notice a lot of cataracts. Probably a year ago, it was like at some point in time, everyone was coming in and you needed cataract surgery.
I agree
But the
with
other
that.
piece is, did those patients just not come out because they didn't feel like they were safe? And then they were coming all out at the same time because things were starting to lift in regards to mask mandates and things of that nature as well. So
Yeah.
there's always these different factors that you have to look at and try to figure out what makes sense. But again, education on your end and education to the patients is going to be the key to success.
Yeah, something I love about this paper. So I think a lot of the patients that I've talked to who are concerned the COVID-19 vaccine has done them harm, these patients often feel that doctors don't listen to them or take them seriously. And maybe that's true. Maybe they don't. So I love that this paper really did take this seriously and look into everything. And, when those patients come in and say things like, I think my COVID-19 vaccine did it, you can come back and say, well, there's this great paper out there I read where they really looked into this, and there's just not the data there to back it up. I'm sure everything's okay. So when you have patients that, definitely, I have patients where you want to brush off some of their concerns because that maybe they're not true or they're overreacting, but take the time to talk to them, educate them, educate. It makes a big difference. Even these patients that, don't like doctors, for instance, you take the time to talk to them, they're going to like you.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. And I think that's why I love doing Eyecare Shenanigans with you. Yes, we have a lot of fun and we talk crap back to each other and we have our bromance going on at times. But man, just you're an educator. It's just in you, right? And I love the way that you break down the information, how you spread the news. You're just a fantastic person, man. And all of us can game up and just really get better when it comes to educating our patients. So
man,
if you
my
can take
hype man over here. I'm just jealous, man. You're helping your patients see better while you're good looking at the same time. Good looking and good vision. Come on, this Dr. Daryl Glover right there.
It's funny, man. That's why I am everyone's favorite optometrist, right? I have the best hype. That's what I've been told by my other colleague out there, Dr. Habir Sayen, who has the #1 optometry podcast in Canada, the 2020 podcast. He tells me the same thing all the time, man. But no, I'm truly blessed, man. I'm in a profession with great folks, and I get to rub elbows with these great folks. I get to learn with them, learn from them. And every day is just beautiful, man. I love Eyecare, and I know you're the same way. And I love
same way, I agree.
causing shenanigans as well, man. But hey, Jeff, man, this has been fantastic. I can't wait till next month. For all those out there, I'm gonna put the pressure on myself and Jeff, man. We're trying to come up with some theme music and some type of intro and outro because we're gonna take this to the moon, right?
That's right.
Eyecare Shenanigans is here to stay. We are looking to partner with people out there. If you want to be a partner and part of this show, feel free to reach out. defocusmedia@gmail.com. We'll make it happen, baby. We're all about news, trends, research, and we do it in a fun and insightful manner. So if you want to be a part of this, tap in with us, message us, and we can see what we can do on the back end. But it's your favorite optometrist, Dr. Daryl Glover, Dr. Jeffrey Fardink. Thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for hanging out with us. Stay healthy, stay positive, stay blessed. And until next time, peace and happy Eyecare Shenanigans. Talk to you later.
See you next time.
All right. All right, colleagues, and it's a wrap. Thank you dearly for hanging out with the Defocus Media team. We hope truly something resonated with you. And if it did, be sure to give us 5 stars and make sure you follow us on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, you named it. And our handle is at Defocus Media on all platforms. And until next time, be sure to keep it 2020, and we look forward to seeing you on